All right then, apparently we're live. So I'm going to, because it's not quite the appointed hour, I'm going to just put this slide up, but I understand that you can't get into the room until I go live. So there you are, and it'll just be kind of quiet around here for a couple of minutes. It's, according to my clock, 4:57, and I don't think you want me to sing. So we'll just leave that slide up until the appointed hour. I'm not taking that pup for any more walks. I am totally fed up. She saw another dog across the street and nearly got both of us killed. And then, when we got to the school playground, she lay down and refused to stand up and move. All the kids thought it was hysterically funny. I didn't. You take her from now on. I am done. Hey, puppy people, Jude the Puppy Nanny here. I'm a grandma with a passion for puppies. I love them because they're cute, but you know what? They're not only cute, they're, they're extremely teachable, and they love to learn. How better to build a bond with your new puppy? A few years back, when I was deciding I wanted to do something with dogs and wasn't sure what, I attended a seminar in Seattle given by Dr. Ian Dunbar, and early on day one, he said, the number one cause of premature death in dogs in North America is misbehavior. And I went, oh. And right at that moment, I thought, what? Right. Well, I can do a little bit. I can help a little bit. If I were to work with puppies and teach them, help their problems. Mostly I work on the ground with families and their new puppies, although I have put together an online puppy training program, and I'll tell you a little bit more about that later. My mission is to keep puppies in their first homes for life. Today, my mission is to put pleasure back in walking your dog. Of course, if you regularly walk your dog off leash on a trail or something, you need a solid recall, but that's a topic for another day. You fed up with being towed down the sidewalk? Or have you pulled and prodded a dog who refuses to move? Is your dog in danger of having her walkies canceled because they're not fun for you anymore? Well, hang on a minute, because today I'm going to give you some tools that can change the leash walking with your dog from pain to pleasure. You know, like taking, let's face it, that before you got a dog, one of the things that you imagined doing was taking her for a walk on a leash, I'm sure. But before we get to the meat of the matter, this format of the webinar may be new for some of you. So let me just explain a little bit. Up on the right-hand side of your screen, there's a sidebar, and there's probably, you'll notice at the top it says chat, polls, attendees, pop-ins, and videos. Well, the chat box is there, and look at this. This is lovely. Woohoo! I love it. Some of you guys have been here before, because that was going to be my next request of you, is if you can see and hear me, could you say so? And I see that some of you can, and this is good. So excellent. I'm assuming you all can. So one of the things I'm going to tell you is that with the webinar jam, which is done through Google Hangouts, there's sometimes a time delay between what you see and what you hear, or what you hear and what you see, and there's nothing I can do about that. It's just the way of it. So hopefully the time lag that you're enduring in wherever you are is short. And the other thing is, what is the other? Oh yes, because of the time delay, if you have a question, we will have time for questions and answers a little bit later. Oh, it's the webinar itchy nose. I get one every time. If you have a question, then how about if you pop it in the box now? Now I can see. Oh, come on! I can't see any more than that. Oh, fiddlesticks! Now what have I done? All right. Well, anyway, there you are. Okay, so we've got that sorted out. We are all here, and so let's talk about changing leash walking from pain to pleasure. You need to start with 4 things: the right equipment, the right attitude, the right training, and the right plan. Let's take those one at a time. First of all, we're going to talk about equipment. And to my way of thinking, if you're just starting your leash walking, there's 2 things, well, 2 or 3 things you need. One is a 6-foot leash. You are not going to be able to see that this is 6 feet, but it probably is. And this one happens to be leather because it belonged to my old boy, one of them. with, you know, this kind of a clasp, but they all have that. And it could be leather or it could be the woven nylon. It doesn't matter. I do less than recommend. We'll talk about one of the things that doesn't work, which is a retractable leash, you know, one of those that never gives you any slack. So they are no good for training leash walking. They're fine for an older dog that knows how to walk on a leash, but if you're going to start trying to change leash walking from pain to pleasure, you need a regular woven nylon or leather leash. The other thing is this kind of collar, as in woven nylon. It could be leather, but a flat buckle collar. And this happens to have a breakaway, which I have no idea how it works, but forget that bit. Like this, or leather that just buckles up. The other thing that you might consider, depends on how old your dog or your puppy is a harness, which really is my equipment of choice. But if your puppy is very small, harnesses are not cheap. So I would go with the flat collar until your puppy's old enough that you're going to buy the one harness. Now, so that's the equipment. Really simple: collar and a leash and or a harness. The second thing is attitude, and patience is number one. And when I say patience, what I mean is by way of saying that we humans, we expect miracles when it comes to training. If we learned as fast as we expect our puppies to, we'd all be geniuses at anything we try. It doesn't work that way. When I say patience, anything you're training your puppy happens in very tiny increments. You show, you explain, she does it right, you reward her, or she doesn't do it right, and you go back and start again. But it's repetition, and so therefore that requires patience. And just because your puppy did whatever you're training right today, or the way you want it today, doesn't mean it's going to be absolutely right every day from here on. Like us, they have their on days and their off days. So you really need patience, but you know that. And you also, what you need is persistence. And what happens so often is people start to train their puppies, especially with the leash walking, and it doesn't go well, and you know, they get tired, as I've said already, they get tired of the puppy going constantly to the end of the leash or not moving at all, and they just go, done, not going to bother. And that's really too bad, because puppies and dogs love their walks, and of course one of the benefits to having a dog for the human is it gets us outside and gets us moving. So you do want to be persistent, and in that persistence, in that staying with it, you also want to be consistent in how you go about it. Not this way today and oh, can't be bothered tomorrow and all of that. It has to be the same way every time, because you're trying to teach this creature something that you want. So if you don't teach it the same way every time, I don't understand how they could possibly get it. So stay with it. That's persistence, and do it the same way every time. That's consistence. The other thing, or there's two other things. One is clear communication. You know, dogs communicate with one another using every part of their body, right from the top of their nose to the very tip of their tail, and they understand one another beautifully. This gibberish that comes out of our mouths means nothing to them. And we figure that it should. Well, the only way it's going to make any sense to them is if we teach them. I've actually had someone say to me, oh, you know, my dog will sit or lie down or whatever it might be when I just use a hand signal. Well, and that, you know, fair enough statement. However, what is being forgotten in that statement is that that's the easy way for dogs to learn. That's what they learn, is they learn to read our body language, and they do it very well and very efficiently. Teaching them the words to go with what we want is just like teaching English as a second language. English, because we speak English, it could be Spanish, French, whatever. Dogs speak no language. So we have to teach them what we want. And of course, your attitude for training a puppy would always include loving the puppy. And you want to demonstrate that by rewarding them, by praising them, by encouraging them when they're getting it almost right, and certainly with things like massages and games and tug and all of those good things. So you don't want to just clip a leash onto a 9-week-old puppy and expect to go for a walk thinking, well, you know, I'll just tow him and eventually he'll get it. Yep, probably. But I think you will do some harm to your relationship. And really and truly, don't we have puppies and that will grow to be dogs because we want to have a relationship with them? So I don't recommend the clip on the leash and tow method. And the other thing, before I move on to the next right thing, is when you do get to the leash walk, you need to stay focused on your environment and on the leash, especially in the early days. You need to know, you, the human, needs to know what's going on around you. You need to see the neighbor's cat that's in the driveway. You need to have noticed the squirrel that just crossed the road. You need to see the kid coming on the skateboard so that you can take appropriate action before your pup lunges to the end of the leash or takes off going the other way or whatever happens. So that's part of your job. And because we always want puppies to walk on a loose leash, it's also important that you stay focused on your leash. And if the leash goes taut, what you want to do is anticipate so that you're able to take different action before that leash goes taut. So that's the attitude. And now the right training begins when a puppy's very young. And you know, I don't say that you know, if you have a puppy that's, oh, I don't know, 4 or 5 months, a year, whatever, and you've not taught this, it's not too late. It'll take longer. That's the thing you want to remember about training later on, is that yes, certainly, because pups and dogs love to learn, they like to do stuff. So the thing that you could teach an 8 to 12-week-old puppy in a couple of weeks may take a couple of months if you've got an older puppy. But the two right training things that you need to teach are follow, which all young puppies do, and if you happen to have a very young puppy, then by all means, as your puppy follows you around the house, stop every now and again and say what a good boy or girl and give them a treat. You want to reward that follow, and then after a few days of that, then you can start adding the word follow. I am easily distracted. Why do I prefer a harness? Let's go back to that just for a minute. Because with a harness, there is no pressure put on a dog's neck at all, at any time. And you know, when you give us humans a tool, we tend to use it. And so if you have a leash attached to something that's around the neck and the pup goes this way, we tend to go this way. Well, you've got a young spine or an older one, doesn't matter, but think about having your own neck jerked. So the possibility of we the humans inadvertently causing damage to a dog's spine is much increased when we use a collar. So that's why I prefer a harness. Thanks for asking. So that's the two things you're going to train. Oh no, that's only one. We talked about follow. The other thing that's essential in your leash walking is to train one of two things, your choice. You either train your pup to look at you, and if you're Zach George, and I'll put up a slide about Zach George in a minute, he gets right down in what he calls a training bubble, down close to the puppy, and he trains the puppy to look at him by taking a treat and holding it. This is puppy, holding it to puppy's nose and then going, puppy, look, and taking the treat up here. And as puppy looks up, whoop, he gives him the treat. After several repetitions, then he puts the treat in the other hand and just goes, look, puppy, look. So that's one thing you can teach, and actually it's a really useful thing to teach. Remember, if you're not working with a very young puppy, it's going to take a while, but you can train it. There's not a problem. just takes time and patience and consistency and persistence. The other one that you can use instead of look is a neutral sound. Now, Turid Rugas, and again, her name will be on the slide that I'm going to put up in a minute. This is her method, and she says you teach a puppy or a dog a neutral sound. For example, you go or and when the pup looks at you, you reward it. So it begins to associate that sound with a reward and with looking at you. So you can see that either the neutral sound or the word look will have the same effect. You're training your dog to give its attention back to you. And so you have a choice as to whether you're going to train look or whether you're going to train a click or a whistle or some other sound that works for you. And I figured you might like to know, and I apologize for the size of the print because I couldn't get the pictures and the print on the slide to be any bigger. So Turid Rugas, and I'll show you one of her books when I take the slide down, is a Norwegian woman. Oh, wait a minute. Yes, she is. I was going to say Swedish. Nope, she is Norwegian. She's written a number of short, super informative books that are full of photographs and really easy to understand and to follow. You can Google her and you'll find out just how amazing she is. And then the second guy, this is Zach George, and any of you who know me know that I follow Zach George on YouTube a lot. Anything that you're looking for in terms of to train your dog or issues that you've got, if you go to YouTube and put in the question /Zach George, I'm pretty sure you're going to get a YouTube video with an answer because he has done hundreds of videos and they're all excellent. And then, of course, at the bottom is my go-to guru, Dr. Ian Dunbar. And it's Ian who has taught me so much. I have read all of his work. I follow his stuff. I've been to a seminar of his every year. And he's, if I say the grandfather, I don't think he'd be pleased about that. But he actually started off-leash puppy training some 30 years ago in California, in the Berkeley area, I believe. Anyway, those are the three. I also used some of Dr. Sophia Yin's work. So there you have, oh, this is the thing I was going to show you. This is, I'm hoping, yes, you can see this. This is one of Turid's books, and it's called My Dog Pulls, What Do I Do? And you can see that it's not very thick, but it's full of photographs and not much print. So it's an amazing little learning tool. You'll find that if you Google her name. Now we're ready to get to the meat of the matter, and just to make it a little easier for you, I'm going to bring up the slides again. I hope this is going as smoothly as I'd like to think it is, but you know, those of you who've been on a webinar with me before know that when it comes to the techie stuff, I sometimes have a few little glitches. So here we have the 9 steps to leash walking. First of all, you're going to train a sound or you're going to train look, and I hope that I was clear in explaining how to do that. And as soon as your pup looks at you, either when you say the word or when you use the sound, then you need to praise them right away and give them a reward for looking. So then you'll do it again after they understand what the sound means, and you'll move 2 steps away so that the pup will come to you for the reward, and at which point you'll tell him or her what a good pup she is. Oh, it's complicated. I'm going to stick to he because I love the female dogs too, but I've always had a male dog, so my default is he, and this he-she business is much too awkward. So now you've made the sound, you've moved 2 steps away, and your pup has come to you for the reward and for praise. Do it again. Make the sound and then move several steps away, and the pup will come to you for the reward. Now, it sounds like when I go through this that I'm saying do each of those things once. I'm not. I'm saying these are just the steps. I want you to repeat step 1 and 2 several times, step 3 and 4 several times, steps 5 and 6 several times. Steps 3, 4, and 5. Sorry, I confused that one. And then steps 6 and 7 and 8 several times. At which point you're ready to add a leash. Now, these are, I made some random notes because I don't know if you guys are taking notes, but you might, there's so many things to remember that sometimes it's easier if you have it with you. So if you're working with a puppy, and even actually if you're working with an older pup, start inside your house, in the living room or in the kitchen, and that click or the look, begin and only do it for 5 or 10 seconds, you know, reward, reward, reward. And you don't want to have any distractions wherever you're working at first until you get you get a really good response, so that sort of for every 10 times that you click or say look, your pup is responding say 8 to 9 times out of 10. And once that happens, then if you're working still in the house, which is a good idea, then you can gradually add some distant distractions. You can, if you have somebody else in your house, you can ask them to open or close a door, or turn up the TV, or walk past as they're not too close. Any kind of distraction like that. And but they need to be distant at first while you continue to work. And don't, if at the very first distraction your pup no longer looks at you, too much, too soon. Back up. Take away the distractions and go back to where there are no distractions. If you're working with a highly energetic dog, I don't care how big or how old it is, you need to burn off that puppy energy first of all before you start this leash training. You cannot hope to have a puppy focus on you when he's got so much pent-up energy. So you can either play fetch or teach him fetch, or you can play tug, or you can do or you can have him run around if he'll do that, but you've got to get some of that energy gone before you start. And your leash is always loose. And that's one of the things that is most difficult for us humans, because we're so inclined to jerk on that leash. So it's a question of keeping it loose. And some of us have been walking dogs for a long time, and so we automatically think, oh, I got to keep that leash taut. No, please don't. I want you to keep it loose. And then, of course, after a while, you want to start making those rewards random. You don't want to and treat for every time, because this is once your pup is getting the idea, and either you're saying look or so just every now and then, or when he's particularly speedy. But you never want to stop rewarding, and that's true of all training. Yes, make them random and certainly make them intermittent, but every now and again when you're working with your dog, just give them a reward. And there's one more thing that I didn't put on the slide, and that is training leash walking needs to be a separate entity. In other words, don't take your dog on a walk and decide you're going to train them. Take 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 2 minutes to start with, and work up gradually, and do your leash walking training before you stop. Before you start, I should say, before you start your leash walk, which is going to be very short, then do the training separately. Arrogance has a I'm going to take this slide down, I think. Yes, Turid Rugas has a rule of thumb for puppies. She says at 3 months of age, a 10-minute walk is adequate, and you need to add 5 minutes per month. There's a couple of random thoughts in terms of the leash walking. One of them is energy. If you're working on this leash walking training and your puppy starts grabbing the leash, very, very common, or your pants leg or whatever, that pup is either tired, stressed, or over the top excited. Stop the training. You know yourself that if you're trying to learn something new and you're tired or distracted or over the top, that doesn't matter what somebody's trying to teach you. It's just not going in here. So if you can see the evidence that this is not a good time for your puppy, to be doing some training, then forget it. Maybe in 5 minutes it'll be fine, but in the meantime, use that opportunity to, unless he's tired, but if you think he's just excited, then work off some of that energy. And if the pup is highly distracted, as in you're walking down the street and pup has seen something that winds him up. It could be a cat, it could be a squirrel, it could be a skateboarder, it could be a friend. And it really winds him up. He gets really excited. There's no point in this or look. He's already gone out of that state where he can hear you. So then you want to increase the distance between you and the distraction. You still want to get the attention back on you, but it won't be in the simple calling his name. You'll want to have something to get excited about, to get his attention back on you. One of the things that if you Google Zach George, one of the things I've seen him do to use as a distraction or to get the attention back on himself when he's training a pup is a squeaky toy. And you know, when you're training, the sillier you can be, the more success you will have, because that's what puppies respond to, is all of this waving of hands and the high-pitched voice and the excitement and the running away. You know, that's why it becomes an issue with kids, you know? Yeah. So if you see a possible distraction, because there's two kinds, the ones you see and the ones you don't. The ones you don't, that's the one where you're going to want to make distance between you and the distraction. And the ones that you can anticipate, that's when you want your pup to come sit beside you and look at you. So you need to be one step ahead of that puppy all the time. That's why I can see, and you probably can too, why Turid Rugas says, yes, keep those walks short, because that's a lot of concentration on your part, never mind about your puppy. Which is why it comes up the next statement, which is take lots of breaks, both of you. Take a 3-minute walk, a 2-minute walk after you've done some training. That's enough, because it's a lot to expect. And the other thing is, if you're going somewhere new with your puppy, and pup hasn't been there before, or perhaps has, but it's a new place today, be tolerant and let puppy have some sniffing time, because you know they live by their noses, and sniffing is the most exciting thing in the world. So I will go over those steps again, but in the meantime, it's your turn, and I don't understand why I can't move this box. Let me see. So if you have any questions, and then it went away. Let me see what happens. Okay, no, I don't see. Okay, if you have any questions, if you could post them in the box right now, that'd be great, and I'll answer them. And in the meantime, while I'm waiting for the questions to show up, I want to talk about a couple of things. Two of them I've already talked about. One is no tugging on the leash. That's probably one of the hardest things for us humans to get. Do not jerk on the leash. Don't tug on it when pup starts to go, oh, you pull him back. No. You want to keep that leash loose, because you know, the leash walking is like all the other kinds of puppy training. What you're wanting your puppy to do is think. for himself, because he can. He's perfectly capable. So allow him to do that while you're training him. I said no extension leashes. They're awful. They're awful for training. They're extremely dangerous at any time. There have been some nasty injuries because the cord on them is so thin and can take you down and do some nasty lacerations to your body as well. So certainly for the training, no extension leashes. And the choke, the prong, the Martingale collars are, in my world, not on. You can teach your puppy to walk nicely on a leash using a flat collar and a regular leash and allow him to figure it out, and you'll end up with a dog, and you've seen them, who walks beautifully on a leash and looks up, checks in with its owner every now and then, and you can have that. If you didn't know what a Martingale collar is, it's the flat collar, but it has right here at the center, it has a chain, like a choke chain, but it's just that piece that's a choke chain. They are very well. They're not necessary, number one, and certainly if you've ever experienced, as I have, what can happen when two dogs playing, one of whom is wearing a Martingale collar, you will not be any more enthusiastic about them than I am. What about, funny, thanks Kim, that was my my next comment was going to be about head halters, and they are certainly humane, more than and humane as opposed to the choke, the prong, or the Martingale. However, what they don't allow is they don't allow your puppy to think, because you haven't given them the space to figure it out. So if you must, you must. Yes, I think reverting to a harness and a 6-foot leash right away would be an excellent plan, and I would venture to say that once we go over the steps again, and you remember the stopping and so on, that you'll find that you'll have pretty good success in a very short time. As it happens, I know your dog, so I know she's smart and she can get it. So I don't recommend a head halter, but they're better than the alternatives. The best is to work with your dog and teach them what they need to know. One of the other thing on that subject, if there's any more questions, I'm good. I can be seeing those now if you've got them. And I put it here again, don't expect miracles. Do not expect miracles. Training happens in small increments. And this is a line from Turid's book, which I love. And she says, "We have no right in our human arrogance to cause pain when it can so easily be avoided." If you've got a new puppy, and I think she's absolutely right. If you've got a new puppy, you know there's tons he needs to learn. I mentioned at the beginning that I've put together an online training. I wonder if I do this. If I do this, we'll see if it works. There we go. And I'm going to put up, I should need to post it, I think. There is a link, and here is what I'm talking about. I'm telling you. Like if I were to be with you or stand up in front of you, I would have none of these issues. And here, I believe this should go the right way. There we go. Look at this. This is in case your puppy's still young and you're still trying to teach them all the things you need them to know. This training pattern, I put it together so that you would be available to you online, and there's 6 modules, and each of them contains a written how-to, a sound clip how-to, and a video, plus a chart that you can print and post so that everybody's on the same page with your puppy training. At $67, it's a great value, and it's only that price because it's new. you know, remember that old telephone ad, the next best thing to being there? Well, this is the very next best thing to having me right there with you. And I posted the link in the box so that you can check it out. Now, let me get rid of the slides again, make them go away. And I put the link in the chat box. Oh, I did need the slides up again. My apologies. I'm going to bring up those steps again so that in case you didn't get them and you wanted, there was some piece of them that you didn't quite get, or you have another question about them. So just to review, we're going to train the sound or look. And once you've done that, then you're going to, and you can see, I don't need to say all that again, that you're going to repeat each of those segments a few times. And once you snap on the leash in step 9, does that mean you're ready to head out? No, not really. Continue to repeat those steps where there are no distractions. Keep the leash loose, get the pup's attention with your signal if he pulls, and if you can anticipate that pull, that taut leash, if you can see that it's getting really excited, and you go, or call your pup's name, or say look, whichever it is to get their attention, then the leash, as your pup turns toward you, the leash gets slack, which is exactly what you want, and then you can say let's go. So you're always paying attention to the leash and your environment so that you can be one step ahead of your pup. And and you really want to be doing this where there are no distractions. And of course, you need to stop when either pup loses interest or you do. There's no need and nothing to be gained by continuing the training when either one or both of you is tired or fed up. So stop before you lose interest. And the biggest aspect of your training is your attitude. Build a bond. Get your puppy to do as you ask because he wants to. When your puppy wants to please you, everything that you're training becomes a whole lot easier. So if there are any more questions, now's the time, because if not, I am about done. I just want, we're assuming that there aren't any more questions, so I sincerely hope that you have some takeaways, and you know, you can always shoot me an email, jude@judethepuppynanny.com. If you think of something or something that was in this webinar is not clear to you, just shoot me an email with a question and I will answer it as quickly as I can. So I will say that that's it for this time, and let's go walkies. And as I always say, have fun. Bye now. Woof.